Oh,
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jack and Jer Podcast. This is episode 10, I believe. I'm Jack, and Jeremy's here as well. And today, what we want to talk about is kind of like the evolution, in our opinion, of like politics and political ideology, especially with like younger people. And the reason that we want to talk about this is Jeremy and I were talking last week, and I think I don't mean to misquote you, Jeremy, but I think Jeremy said that he leans left, or he is more left. And one of the things I've noticed is that there is definitely becoming more of a difference between someone who is liberal and someone who's progressive. And I think those differences are getting really big. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is kind of the difference between, okay, you lean left or you are, a leftist. But I don't like, especially if you look at like classical liberalism versus what today's progressive movement embodies, they are incredibly different. And I think it's just an interesting thing to start noticing that when you say that you're left, do you mean you're progressive or do you mean you're liberal? Because I don't believe they mean the same thing.
yeah, those are some good points. And I guess I just want to preface anything I say in this episode that I reserve the right to take it back. I reserve the right to change it, and I reserve the right to say I didn't mean that. So, because
Yeah.
I know, well, one, even if this is a week down the line, a month down the line, I don't want to be misquoted and like, oh, you said this, you said that. Sometimes like things come out and you don't really mean it, or sometimes things come out and you think about it a sec and you're like, actually, I didn't mean that. And also, down the line, let's say I, for whatever reason, get well known or running for office or whatever. I don't want what I say in the past to like define me. I definitely can change views. Uh,
Well, I'm not going to hold any of that against you. I think it's hilarious, the idea that it's something's wrong if someone changes their views and their approach over time. Like if you are the same person you were 10 years ago, even just like 5 years ago, um, I think it's more of a hindrance than like a thing of pride. Like you haven't encountered conflicting information to change your opinion in the past however much time. So by all means, I'm not going to hold anything against you and, entrench you in an opinion.
I appreciate that, and I like to think. I really like butterflies. They're one of my favorite animals, and what's called. I like to think that people should be like butterflies, not necessarily by changing how you look, but people should always be changing constantly. Kind of, if you're the same person that you were 5 years ago, I feel like that's not a good thing. Or maybe it is for some people, but generally speaking, I think like consistent change and like not being the same person forever is can generally be a good thing. But back to like the lean left, lean right, whatever. So one of my general thoughts, I guess, would be that I don't like to define myself with titles too much at all. Like I don't like to call myself a teacher. I like to say that I teach. I don't like to say that I'm like whatever else something I do. Like I do those things, but I don't like to label myself as that because that I feel like limits yourself. So also like when I um, was drinking a lot, I would never say I was an alcoholic. I'd say I have like alcoholic tendencies. And I feel like that allowed me to kind of like break it easier and for whatever. So on a similar note, I feel like people might, or even me, when I define myself as a Democrat or as a Republican, or say I lean left, you kind of limit yourself to having to have the views that the majority of people in that group have. And I feel like it'd be more productive if people just had views on certain things. And I feel like a lot of times people revert to their party to know what to think without just thinking for themselves. So, for example, it's like, what is your view on immigration? What is your view on minimum wage? What is your view on COVID? You don't have to just go, oh, Republicans think this, so I think this. Democrats think this, so I think this. It should be like just have a view. And I don't know. I don't know why it isn't like that. So for me, I like to pick and choose my views. So that's why I say I generally lean left, because there are definitely some things that I side with Republicans on, which I guess one of my main concerns is, like, for the last 4 years, anything that you might agree with a Republican on, you're deemed like a Nazi or a Trumper or whatever. I was absolutely not a Trumper. I'm definitely not a Nazi. But people like kind of think those things when you just have a little bit of an agreement on one policy, which is twisted in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of great points. I think the past few years with the Trump administration, hopefully is the apex, and we start to come back from this tension that we have. Because one of the things that is starting to become really scary that you touched upon is if you said anything positive like about Trump, um, people just associated you with the whole administration. And let's be fair here. Like, there are good and bad things in every administration. I think some of the easy things that were good in the Trump administration was that there were unprecedented peace deals in the Middle East that I don't think really got enough coverage. For the first time, Israel signed peace treaties with the UAE, with I believe Sudan or South Sudan, and those are good things. Like, I think it would be crazy to say that peace is not a good thing, and people would be like, "Oh, there wasn't an act of war." There were not flights. There wasn't any commerce going between these countries, and once the peace deals went into place, those things opened up. And so it's not like small trivial things. And obviously, you don't need to have me go through a litany of things that the Trump administration did that weren't good, but I think it's super important, and something that you kind of mentioned, to be able to recognize that, like, both sides are capable of doing good and both sides are capable of doing things that are not so good. And just because you point out, the good or the bad doesn't mean that you're either with or against. Like, you're allowed to be an individual. And more than that, like, I think it's important to talk to people on all sides. Like, I have a bunch of different friend groups because I went to school in Florida, then I went to Penn Law, and I know people from growing up and overnight camp and meeting people and whatever. And in one of my friend groups, I'm like the conservative, and like on another friend group, I'm the liberal. And it's wild to me that in like one of my friend groups, I'm the most conservative person that they know, when I never voted for Trump. I haven't voted Republican, like, but like for some reason I'm the conservative and they don't interact with anyone else that's, Republican. Like, I just think that you have, like, as uncomfortable as it is, or may be, interacting with people from the other side and actually recognizing the value that there is from having a different viewpoint and being able to every now and then be like, you know what, you're actually right on that, or that is a good thing, is super important. Because then because if you don't do that, you'll never know when there are conflicting information to change your opinion. So, I think it's a great point that you're bringing up, that just because one of the sides does something that you agree or disagree doesn't mean you have to take like everything else and all the baggage with it as well.
Yeah, another I agree with all of that. Another point, I think, but I do reserve the right to disagree with that in future. Another point, though, is I think, and I love relating things kind of to like math or physics, because that just makes sense to me. In physics, I wish I knew a little bit more. I think it's one of Newton's laws. Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction, right? And I think one of the problems with politics in America right now is they're so against each other And if one side says something, it's in complete opposition of the other side. And what does that do? You just get farther and farther, more opposition, and that's not good. So I got a couple points. I don't know which I should say first. I guess the first thing I think that it should be is we should kind of work together and bring solutions to the table. I feel like right now we just oppose each other, and no solutions get made. We just like try and delete what the other person did, or revamp what the other person did, a lot of the time now by like executive orders, not even through good legislation. But it's just eliminate what they did and do the opposite, eliminate what they did, do the opposite, and you keep on getting these opposite reactions. And I don't think that's how we come to a better place, like working together and coming up with a solution that's not opposed. Maybe it's like a little in the middle and up, and you guys kind of come to the middle. And what does it come to when we oppose each other so much? Like I said, I do think I lean left. I think both the extreme right and the extreme left right now are absolutely out of control, though. And like,
Yeah,
what
they're
you see
bonkers.
this week, I'm like losing my mind. Pepe Le Pew was canceled. Mr. Potato Head was canceled.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss was canceled. Everything's getting canceled. And I understand like the offense in all of them, 100%. But the way
I don't understand the offense in the Dr. Seuss situation. I think it's people grasping at straws. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I'll explain the offense another time, I guess.
Okay.
I don't want to waste time on air about that, but I do understand the offense. I might not agree with it, but I understand it. But at the same time, like the way I would deal with an offense is I would teach about it, and why, like teach why is it offensive to some people, and why we shouldn't repeat it, but also like not deleting it or eliminating it or canceling it. That's not gonna solve the problem. And like right now it looks like we're moving faster than Bitcoin when it's at all high, like just of things getting canceled every day. I'm curious what's going to get canceled next and like how far it's going to go. And then also I'm just like, I want to see a rule book for this, because some of the cancels, or some things that are staying around just don't make sense. And I'm like, wait, why is that allowed, but this isn't? None of it makes sense. I just don't even understand it anymore.
Well, so one of the things that got canceled that really blows my mind is San Francisco or a California school board voted to rename multiple high schools, a couple of them being schools named after Abraham Lincoln. And it just, well, so renaming the school away from Abraham Lincoln, I think is just completely bizarre. And then second, it's also going to cost the school system millions of dollars in like a time of like the most financial uncertain time of, literally ever. Like 2008, I don't think was this uncertain. And so getting back to like the cancellation thing, like it's just crazy. Like, and one of the things that I want to touch upon is and what you talked about, like we should learn about these things, like instead of canceling them and silencing them and throwing them into like the depths of the black market, for lack of a better words, like learn from them. Like it is okay to admit that like Thomas Jefferson was incredibly influential on creating this country, and like I think that this country is inherently good, but at the same time, like he owned slaves and he did bad things. But like we can take the good with the bad. Like we are capable of not painting a single person or a group of people with a single brush and saying that the bad things that they did completely overshadowed the good things that they did. And I want to take that one step further, and like this past summer and this past year with the protest and things like that, it became very popular, and I think especially amongst young people, for the ACAB, like all cops are bad, and that idea I think is like so poisonous, that we're going to paint a group of people as all of them being bad. Like, had we said that about any ethnic group of people, that would be completely bigoted. But for some reason, we now think it's acceptable because there are bad apples, and the system I think does need some reform, that we can paint all police across our whole country as being bad. And that's, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to paint a person with a single brush. Obviously, you have like the Jeffrey Epsteins that, like, I don't really think there's anything good to say about that guy. But like people like Thomas Jefferson, or like, you say whatever you want to say about Abraham Lincoln, but to say that he's a bad person and that we should be not like, or changing the name of schools away from him, I just think it's rewriting history. It's completely not appreciating the people that came before us, that, the saying, like, we stand on their shoulders, like they helped get us there. And like, it's okay to recognize the good with the bad.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then what I like to think is I like to think about myself whenever I'm thinking about other people, and like what I would be like in a certain situation, or what it'd be like maybe in the future. And I like to try and like hold as much empathy as possible. And I feel like a lot of people don't have empathy and don't think of like how they might be in that situation in the future, and like what it would be like. So like something I heard maybe like about a year ago that really resonated with me. What and like I feel like I bring it up a good amount is, there's a guy who thinks in about 1,000 years, or maybe 500 years, whatever, in a long time, which is a long time, but also isn't that much time at the same time, that people who eat animals are going to be looked at as badly as people who owned slaves. And I actually kind of believe that. I've been trying to be vegetarian for the last like year or two. I'm pretty close. I'm pescatarian, probably like 5-6 days a week, but I still definitely eat meat at least once a week. I just can't or I can stop. I just haven't stopped yet. It's hard. But I kind of believe that. And I think there's a study I saw this week that said like, there's two studies I saw this week. One was like some type of squid or octopus like passed the same aptitude test as a kindergartner or a first grader.
It's like an octopod or a hempapod or something.
Yeah, heptapod. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one was that octopus I don't know, basically have feelings. Like they proved that they have feelings, like physical feelings and emotional feelings. And I don't know, to me, I think animals know we are like fucking them up and killing them and ruining their environments, and it's not good. And in a bunch of years, what if like we do all think of that? Is every single president right now going to get canceled because I don't think there's any president that's a vegetarian. All senators, everyone who's ever done anything, I don't know too many of them who are vegetarians. Right now, the tide is turning a little bit, but before 1990, not too many vegetarians. All those people are going to get canceled. That just no, like they didn't know at the time that it was as bad as it is. But as research went on, came out that, hey, maybe it's not the best to eat animals. It doesn't mean that we cancel them all. We still celebrate them for what they did. And then we realize that they should have known better to make certain decisions, but shouldn't change anything. I don't know.
No, I agree. And there's a rule that a friend of mine and I live by when it comes to these types of situations, which is we don't impute today's morals on historical actors. And like, listen, I think I don't even think I need to say this, but like, I think slavery is clearly wrong. But going back to the Thomas Jefferson situation, I can't cancel him over something that back then was legal and norm, and like part of the norm. I can put an asterisk next to his name. And every time we teach about him, we can say this was part of his life and this is how he treated his slaves and things like that. We can do that. But to cast a larger net than that, I think is really dangerous, because exactly what you're getting at. We don't know how our like morals are going to evolve over time, what we're going to learn about like the world that we live in. And like, am I a bad person because I eat like meat? Right now, you say no. But if
Yep.
you're right,
Yes. No, I'm kidding.
oh, what? Okay. But in a couple hundred years, if someone says yes, like, then it doesn't matter if I, do things that are charitable and philanthropic, or, whatever it is like that. Like, are we just going to continue to rewrite history because our morals and ethics are changing? Can't we just put like some asterisks along there and like take the good with the bad?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and it's I feel like we're moving super fast where it's like some of us might actually experience getting canceled because of certain things. And I don't know, I think it's wild. I think we should have an open view and try and teach people what's best. But that's just my opinion. What did you learn this week, Jack?
Um, what did I learn this week? Uh, one of the things that, I'm going to hold off for a second. I want to crystallize this. So why don't you go first? I should have been more prepared.
All right, no, all good. I learned that people care about the monarchy of England entirely too much. And I don't really understand it, or maybe I don't care enough and I'm missing something. But that was the wildest thing ever, how crazy everyone's going over it. It's not even our country. Like, why don't we care about like other countries that have like problems and trying to fix them, or other remarkable stuff? I'm sure there's cool stuff happening like literally in every country of the world. Way cooler than like the Queen. I'm pretty sure too. I don't want to like toot my own horn. I've known that the monarchy was racist my whole life. Like, it's not hard to figure that one out. Um, I don't know. It's nothing new. Why is this like breaking news? It should be fixed, but that's in England, and that's like a pretend king and queen. Like, maybe we should talk about how there shouldn't be a king and queen anymore.
Well, first, it's not our country. So I think we should be respectful of other cultures and their norms. I'm gonna not indulge in this conversation this topic because first, I didn't watch the interview, and I won't watch the interview because I don't follow gossipy stuff like that. And
Yeah.
second, I had the privilege of interning in the House of Commons for a wonderful gentleman who's still a representative over there, and
awesome.
I learned a lot about the UK government and the system over there, and also got a sense of their culture. And some of them do like their monarchy for whatever reasons, and it doesn't actually serve much political purpose. But my overall belief is that as an American, I really don't care what France or Poland or any European, Asian, any of these countries, what any of their people think of our, oh, we should vote Democrat or Republican in this like upcoming election. Like, I don't care. Like, I think the US has a lot of things that needs to improve upon, but I still think we provide the most opportunity. I still think there's a reason why people are trying to immigrate here, why we have the most diverse population. Like, say whatever you want to say about the Scandinavian countries, they have not allowed people into their countries for a long amount of time. So, just my point of view is I don't really care what those people say about my country and the way my government is run. And you know what? I'm going to respect them and, let their systems run the same way, so long as they're not committing, atrocious crimes like the genocide that's going on with the Uyghur population in China. I will say that's fucking terrible, and we need to start drawing more attention to it. But besides that, like, whatever, you do you, as long as like you're not like committing heinous crimes and things like that. So I'm gonna digress.
Yeah.
The thing I learned, I guess this week, or I was reminded of, is damn, our taxes fucking suck. The whole system of doing your own taxes and actually like figuring it out, holy shit. We got to solve this problem here. Like, that's a political conversation I think we can all get around. We got to reform the way we do this. The fact that, like, if I'm wrong on this, like, I'm going to be paying for it out of pocket, like, that sounds terrible. Kind of tongue in cheek, but like this, I just finished up setting up my taxes, and like, fingers crossed, like that stuff was terrible.
Yeah, no, I mean, taxes literally give me anxiety. I absolutely hate them, but they're designed like that for a reason, because once you know how they work, and you can make them work for you, you end up saving a lot of money or making a lot of money. So like, that's why they do it, is so, I think, so rich people can kind of stay rich, and so other people get rocked.
See, I just don't believe that. I don't believe they're like designed to keep the rich rich. I think there are some things in place.
Why are they so
like,
complex then? Why don't they just make it electronic?
Well, a couple of things. First, because the turbo taxes of the world lobbied the government to not provide a free system for them. So there's that issue, which has everything to do with lobbying, and not insulating government from private interests, which is good and bad. And then the second thing is because it's easier to add laws than to take laws away. It's way easier to get the House to vote on like a new bill than to go through the old legislation and like start crossing things out. And like, maybe it's just me, I just like don't necessarily think that there are like, by and large, like, people like pulling the strings that are like, oh, like, we're going to keep the man down. Like, I just think that rich people have more resources, and they hire people, like they hire CPAs and like tax lawyers to be like, where are the loopholes? Go find the loopholes, because
that's definitely part of it. Yeah, I don't know. It's like chicken or the egg, which came first, because like maybe the policies are made and then rich people jump on them, or it makes rich people richer. I think the rich people kind of legislate for these policies to be made. But like, if you're just some like things that I'm aware of, that if you're like in the know, you can save a lot of money. If you work from home, or even if you don't like necessarily work from home, you can basically pay yourself rent and kind of deduct, like, I think up to like 10 grand a year in rent, paying yourself living at home. If you have kids, you can have an LLC and put them on payroll, like up to 15 grand a year, which again, you can deduct. So like, these are policies that, like, what is the real reason that those are allowed? Do they actually help? Maybe they do. I'm not like too familiar. I'm not an expert, but those seem like just like rules that only benefit. I guess it can benefit poor people too. They just don't take advantage of it. I don't know. It's a tough one. But I feel like it could be way more simple, for sure.
For sure. I think we agree there. So a couple things. First being, I don't believe that the world we live in is a zero-sum game, that in order for the rich to win, the poor need to lose, or something like that. I think that actually the rich can get a lot richer by the poor getting richer, by the poor getting wealthier, allowing them to have more discretionary income. So that's the first thing. I don't think that the world we live in is a zero-sum game. Okay. The second thing is, in my opinion, I think that there are pretty straightforward reasons for instance, having whatever the tax credit is, or the write-off for like employing your kids in like your like small company. Like, if you own a bodega, and like, you're not of much means, employing your family to like work the cashier and things like that is super important in order to keep that business going.
Way more people are taking advantage of that tax deduction that don't have that situation than are, in my experience.
I think I don't have any statistics, so I can't back that up or dispute it. All I'm saying is that there are cases that those rules in place do provide opportunities for people of less means to take advantage of it. Whether they're truly educated on the matter in order to take care of it is a whole other conversation about how our education system is just not suiting people properly for the modern world. But I just, at the end of the day, I just don't really think that there's like a Scrooge McDuck that's really pulling the strings and being like, you know what, this is how we take advantage of the poor or something like that. I just think that it's over time, things got more complicated. It's a lot easier to add laws than to take them away. And that the people that are rich have the resources to figure out where the loopholes are, and the people that are poor, it's just point and shoot. It's tackle one problem at a time because it's all they have the capacity for or the resources for. So that's just my feeling of it. It's kind of why I'm against like most conspiracies. I just don't believe that there can be like this new world order that's like pulling all the strings, and like we wouldn't actually find out about it with today's information technology, I guess. So again, I can't really back that up. It's just like the perception I have.
No, it makes sense. I think that will be all for today. Thank you for listening in. If you listened to the end, that is awesome. We appreciate that. Like we've been saying, please subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you want to hear. We're definitely going to try and have our first guest in the coming weeks. If you want to be a guest, you have to have commented in a video. And then maybe we'll have you on as guest. So thank you, Jack.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so just last thing, if you're staying here and listening, do us a favor. Like politics, we didn't talk really about the differences between modern progressives and liberals and things like that. But if you guys can do like one piece of homework for us, I think it would be really helpful for just like you and in the world. Talk to someone of a different political belief and like actually talk to them and have a civilized debate. Don't name call. Don't be like, well, Trump did this, Obama did this, Hillary did that. Like, don't do that shit. Have a real discussion with them. And at the end of the discussion, like shake hands, get food together, eat some ice cream, like whatever it is, but like live your life like afterwards. Like have a conversation that might get tense at times with things that like you maybe fully disagree with, but then go back to having like a relationship with them. Because I think right now, people are getting so far separated from each other just because of their political ideologies that it's getting harder and harder to find common ground, or at least to have political discourse and like not assume that the person's a terrible person for not believing everything that you believe in. So, I'm just saying, if you can find someone that maybe you can have one of these discussions with, I think it's one step forward to like help bringing us back together.
I like it. I will do that homework. I'll let you know how it goes next week. See you later.